Who do you want to talk to next?
Let's see. I'd like to talk to Elizabeth.
Same here. Elizabeth in Texas. How are you doing? What would you like to talk about today?
I am okay. Hi, V.
Hi, welcome on the show. Elizabeth tried to call on last week and didn't get on, so I told them to let her on.
Oh, good.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay.
It's Eric, right?
Yes.
I'm terrible with names, so it's nice that the names are always on display. Anyways, I called to get both of your thoughts on something that I've heard so many times from believers and even a few non-believers.
Mm-hmm.
But it's when I'm told that I deconverted for what they call emotional reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And if I need to explain more, I'll be more than happy to do so.
No, you don't have to. So do you think that there are only emotional reasons to not believe?
I mean, I wish people would clarify what they meant by that. For me, I guess that is true because I deconverted as more of like a direct result from religious trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no way to regulate my emotions because I was not. The religion I grew up in was very fundamental, very extreme. So I was taught that anything I learned in science class, toss that out the window.
Yeah.
So I got so used to not being able to think critically at all that the only thing I had were emotions. So when I hear believers saying, oh, well, you deconverted for emotional reasons, I'm essentially so confused because I'm just like, well, what does that mean to you? Because
Right.
I don't think our definitions are the same here. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Well, first, I want to congratulate you on taking that tack first, right? Saying, hey, give me your definition of this word that would otherwise be maybe insulting or confusing. I want to understand where you're coming from, what you mean by that. That is a great way to start that conversation. So I like that a lot. Also, I've always found it so funny that's something I've gotten to, right? Oh, you deconverted because you were angry or because you were sad or because you wanted to, just like all of these concepts of, deconverting for emotional reasons. And then you turn around and you hear conversion stories and you hear why people come to God in the first place. Is it anything but emotional reasons? It's every single time. It's, oh, I felt this and I felt that. And for some reason, for some reason, it doesn't ever occur to them to turn that back on themselves. If that is indeed a problem, they should be concerned about that too.
I mean, so the stepping off point there is epistemology. So Elizabeth, there is a person who I talked to off and on for over 2 years, since nearly the beginning of Talk Heathen, just been in correspondence with. They were an early caller. And almost week to week, I'm a believer. I'm not a believer. I'm a believer now. There is no God. Everything is existence of God. And I mean, but this person was all in and then all out and then all in and then all out. And it really kind of solidified for me over time that there's a problem with their toolkit here, right? How they're understanding what is real and what isn't real. There's got to be a pretty big issue if we're fluctuating this much, right? What actually counts as evidence? What is real? I mean, for you to go, you know what? I don't think there's a God and have emotional reasons. That's okay. That's fine. I think the more important thing is that you take the next step and start working on good reasons to believe things and, understanding what bad reasoning is. And the more you can do that, the more you can ground yourself and the more you can prevent yourself from flapping around like that. I wound up having to actually recently stop talking to that person. It made me sad. But they went into conspiracy land.
Oh.
And they're like, aliens. And I was like, nope.
I've got a family member like that. She's very much into lizard people, chemtrails, and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Earth is flat, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's, I don't think there's a problem with you saying, hey, you know what? I emotionally found myself recognizing that maybe this feeling that I'm having isn't God, or what I've come to understand God to be is not lining up with reality, and I'm pissed about it. Or whatever the case is, right? There's this trauma that happened, and that doesn't jive with my understanding of what God is. That's
exactly.
Yeah, that's fine. I think the next place, though, is finding firm grounding on the way that you move forward. And the way to do that is, for us, skepticism.
Skepticism has definitely helped me a lot. Funny enough, I learned skepticism by starting therapy, and that was over 4 years ago.
Right.
And shortly after starting therapy, I deconverted very quickly, and it was just a very tumultuous time for me because I didn't have anyone that was in the same position as me. I didn't have an atheist that was formerly a Christian who had gone through the stuff that I did.
Yeah.
So I had to figure out everything essentially on my own, with the help of therapy, of course, but it took me a long time to even get where I am now. Like all throughout high school, when you were talking about a person who was all in and then all out, that was me all throughout high school because of science class. The stuff that I would learn in science, I would decide, okay, well, I'm not really a believer. I can't be because, this science is saying this. But after going back to Sunday school, it would be like, nope, I'm a believer again. It was just exhausting.
You took the word out of my mouth. Exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because that the once you look at Sunday school or services or any of those worship services, it's all emotional manipulation. That's how they get you back. And so to hold emotional reasons for leaving against you as something that's bad and invalid, but use emotional control and manipulation to try and get you back is extremely dishonest. And so that would be, that's my thinking, at least. My other thing that I just wanted to bring up, and this is just kind of going off of what Eric said, anything that leads you away from theism is a good thing. Like if you deconvert, it is that's good. You did it, that's good. It's hard and you did it. Awesome. But there are ways to deconvert that leave you more susceptible to being drawn back in. And there are ways to deconvert or to continue the process of deconversion that will protect you from, again, that emotional manipulation. So if you leave religion because you're angry at God, for example, right? My parent died or something bad happened and I'm mad at God, so I'm no longer going to be a believer. If that really gets you out of that religion, then I think that's a good positive step forward. But that also leaves you open to, once you have gotten over that anger, being pulled back in. So once you're out, you have to make sure that you're continuing to build on that skepticism and to come up with good reasons for not believing, so that if they do try to come back at you with that emotional manipulation, you're not fighting emotion with emotion, because that's always going to end up getting messy.
Oh, yeah. I'm very familiar with emotional messes.
I don't know. I disagree.
You do?
I do, very much so. Interesting.
How so?
Well,
disagreements.
Yeah, I know. We're atheists, right? we can have different views. So the thing is, you came to this place of not believing. Are you in a position where you can convince other people that that's the case? No. Are you in a position where you should be convinced? Probably not. But that's just because we're human. It's part of the human condition. And as an anti-theist, as somebody who thinks that that religion creates a place for people to couch bigotry and empowers people to do really bad things to really susceptible people, I've got to agree, stepping away from that is good. That said, it doesn't matter to me as much whether or not you get whipped back and forth, because I think that the key part here is grounding. And the more you can ground yourself in that skepticism, the more you can ground yourself in being immune to or working your way through and out of emotional abuse, right? That is something that you touched on that just rang through me like a bell when you said it. When you're being emotionally manipulated, it has a very, very powerful effect. And when you get out from it and you learn to recognize it, holy crap, it's a game changer. And
it is. It really is.
It is. And whether or not you're a Christian, I'm very happy that you're developing the tool set to recognize and get out from under emotional abuse and emotional manipulation. That's wonderful. I applaud you for that, no matter who you are, no matter what you believe. I really want to get more people who say, hey, you know what? Here are good reasons. Here is, an outlook that I have on the world that corresponds to reality. I think that I guess I put the primary focus on skepticism. I don't know. It feels like I'm not saying you don't. I just something rang really wrong for me on that, and I don't know why. Maybe I just need to explore it more.
I'm still waiting for the disagreement part, because it sounds like we're saying the same thing to me.
It does sound like.
Why don't you go back and listen to this?
I'm going to go back and listen to this episode, and I'm going to come back and I'll have something better there.
I mean, I love open discussions like this. I have them with my roommate all the time. My roommate, he's very much anti-theist. Last time I checked, and that was maybe a week or so ago. And me and him, we butt heads on some things. I know, shocking for atheists. Wow, we don't agree on everything,
Yeah.
But he explained to me why he was anti-theist, and I said, okay, well, after coming out of a very extremist, harmful religion, I don't think I don't consider religion to be inherently bad or good. It is the people that, when I grew up, it was most definitely the people who were using religion and the Bible as a weapon to do that harm. It wasn't those material sources themselves, if that makes sense.
Well, I can see where you're coming from. I think that it's a mixture of both. I think that the tools, we talked about this last week, tools do not have inherent morality or immorality. They are not good or bad. They have no power by themselves. And it's what you do with them and how you use them that makes them hurtful or helpful. But you can also argue that a gun, for example, has a specific use, and and it's not going to help a lot often, right? Like the use of a gun is a specific thing. So the gun itself doesn't have power. It is still the person using the gun, but that gun was manufactured and created for a specific purpose, and we might not agree with that purpose. So in the same way, I would say that the Bible itself is not powerful in itself. It's a book, right? But in the way it's been used and the way it's manufactured and the way it's created to control and propagate bad ideas does lend itself to more harmful actions than positive ones, in my mind.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. That makes a lot more sense when you say it like that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking through. If you go back, especially through the Old Testament, what you have is the story of a tribe that's justifying its conquests.
Yeah.
And as those books are added, you're seeing more and more things that were a whole lot more relevant back then than they are now being listed out, because you have justification of terrible behavior, and you have stories, that are fantastical. And then you get to the New Testament and you have this entirely different time where people are still finding and seeking justification for their actions to, see themselves as separate or creating their own faction. And it's just part of human, it's part of the human experience. And it's interesting seeing people justify that and justify their actions through the use of these stories. And so I agree with you. And as you're talking, I'm just kind of thinking to myself, and I'm thinking through it, and I'm thinking, I don't think anyone sat down with the express purpose of saying, I'm going to create a book that's going to aid me in denigrating women. Mm-hmm. That said...
Well, there is the...
if we're going to talk about Ruth, and we're going to but what you have is people who in their society denigrate women, then that's going to come out in the wash. That is definitely going to be reflected in the text. So yeah, that really got me thinking. Dig it. Anyway.
Thank you for calling.
Yeah, thank you for calling.
I'm glad that I finally got through this time. That's nice.
Yeah, glad you did as well.
Right. Take care.
And I'm glad I could give y'all something to think about. Y'all gave me something to think about, too. So I appreciate
Perfect. It. That's the best kind of conversation.
Definitely. All right. Bye, Elizabeth. Huh. Yeah. It's not like it's new, but it's definitely something that's fun to kind of ponder over,
And it is useful to take a step back, because I think a lot of the time there is that instinct to be like, this book was manufactured to do this thing, and I'm angry about it. And then you have to like, wait, no, well, actually, if you think about it, this is just a reflection of the time where they were living in, and the fact we're holding on to it is harmful, but at the time it was just another book. Absolutely. And more than that, it's a cataloging of Anyway, I'm just going to repeat myself. Let's move on. Let's talk to Tyler